The Troy Historical Society recently transformed its space inside 59 Fenner Avenue into a walkthrough exhibit titled Troy's Greatest Generation, the World War II Honor Board. The display honors the lives of Troy area's late World War II veterans. Stick around until after the break to hear more about this project from Troy Historical Society's Director of Education, Bill Brasington.
For all your N's, C and N.
What we're doing here at the Troy Historical Society is an exhibit that is centered on veterans from Western Bradford County, the Troy School District area that went off to war during World War II. The names that we have here were on an honor board located downtown where people could find out who had enlisted, who had been drafted, and who was gone off somewhere during the war. So it's 592 people. 10 of those 592 were killed in action. And so what we have over here is we have a way to memorialize and remember who the 10 people were. And they're in the order that they lost their life. Some in the Pacific, some in the European theater. We have airmen, we have Navy, we have artillery and ground support, and some of the most interesting battles that happened and most famous things that happened, there was somebody from the Troy area that was there. We have some displays here for some of the airmen from the Troy area. Bud Bloom, J.C. Bloom, was a pilot who was over the air of Omaha Beach in Normandy during D-Day, as well as several other famous battles. We have a B-17 Flying Fortress called the Winnie C, whose co-pilot was Chuck May from Troy. And we have the complete story of the Winnie C, including Chuck's diary of all 25 missions. He finished his 25 missions and was able to come back to Troy. Shortly after he completed his missions, the plane was lost, so the plane did not continue very long after his service. So we have a nice representation of what action was like for some of the airmen. The main part of the exhibit really is all 592 people that went off and served. And so what we've tried to do is create a walkthrough exhibit with all 592 people, and they're in alphabetical order, so you can look for people that you might know. One of the things that we try to do here is recognize that these people that served in World War II, they had a life before war, then war happened to them, and then they came home. And so some of what we represent here is what their life was like after they came home. Some of it are things that happened during the war, and some of the things that are on the wall here are championship basketball teams that they had, state chorus, many things that they did in high school that are very interesting. There are people who, Esther McClellan from Troy was a nurse. We had a lot of women. We have women that were in the Marines, women that were an integral part of freeing concentration camps. And some of the stories that they tell about when they went into a concentration camp, they had to really stop, don't feed anybody, because they're so starving that if you actually feed them, you'll harm them. And so they would work on soup, and it was really a devastating thing. And these are normal people that came back home, and you would meet on the street, and you wouldn't realize some of the wonderful things that they have that they could tell you about their experiences, but they just didn't talk about it. So there's really a lot of background, a lot of battles. One of the things that we try to describe is there's 592 people here and their stories. And if I took 592 marbles and dropped them on the floor, they would go to every corner of the room. And these 592 people went to every corner of the war. They were at Normandy, they were on ships in the South Pacific when the Japanese surrendered. They were at Omaha Beach, they were at the Battle of the Bulge. There's one of the soldiers here found himself behind enemy lines during the Battle of the Bulge for a month. He and another soldier hid and waited for the Germans to be pushed back after the Battle of the Bulge, and they survived. And there are so many stories of the families back home not knowing what's going on. The communication was terrible. There's a letter in January of 1942 where a mother finds out that her son, who was stationed at Pearl Harbor, was alive. And if you can imagine not knowing day to day. And it's all represented here. It takes time if you're really interested. If you see names that you recognize, it's a great place to come to see family members. Your grandfather's brother may be listed on the wall here. And then just some of the stories of what they were doing in high school before they went to war. And it's a great place to come and learn about what service was like back in 1942 through 46. We have some representations here of some of the aviators from the Troy area, and out of the 592, there's many, many waist gunners, co-pilots, pilots of aviation world that you can read about. One in particular that we have here is Bud Bloom. His name was J.C. Bloom, and he graduated from Troy, and he flew P-47, which is considered a fighter bomber. It's a heavier duty plane, not a lightweight fighter. And he was very active throughout Europe, but he was over top of the landing forces at Normandy and was responsible for helping to put out a mortar that was raining down on some of the troops that were landing on the beach. And they were calling out on the radio, "Oh my God, they're killing us. Somebody get that mortar." And he and his wingman and some Spitfires tracked down where it was and took it out. And we found an article about his actions in 57 different newspapers across the United States. It was published very widely. The plane that he flew, it was quite common to name planes and to have artwork on the plane to kind of add personality. And Bud's plane was called Bloom's Tomb, and the artwork on it was a coffin with a skeleton flying it. And we can see here some of the artwork for it, and we have a model here, correct size, with the artwork on it. And the plane was shot down 9 times. He was not flying it all 9 times, but the plane itself was shot down 9 times, and then a list here of when that action was. And by the time they get up to the 7th or 8th, 9th version of it, the artwork was not nearly as detailed. It was much more of a stick figure. I think the artist was getting tired of a plane that was clearly jinxed and was not going to fly for long. But it has really more to do with the tenacity of the pilots. This plane was really not for air-to-air combat. It was much more of doing ground damage. And J.C. Bloom was responsible for taking an awful lot of trains out of action. It had heavy guns, and if it attacked a locomotive steam engine, it could blow it up just by releasing the pressure in the boiler. Here we have the Flying Fortress, which is the B-17, and Chuck May from Troy was a co-pilot on the Winnie C, was the name of the plane. And one of the things that they did with the Flying Fortress bombing from England, bombing Europe, is the crew needed to get 25 missions in to be relieved. And so the hope was that you could survive for your 25 missions to be relieved. And Chuck was able to get through his 25 missions. We have a very detailed information about every single one of his flights. We have his diary with his notes, and the story of how the Winnie C was actually later in the war was lost over Europe. And so it's a wonderful depiction of how many crewmen and what their jobs were. And one of the missions, they shot down 5 German planes. And the 5th one that they shot down as they were entering the English Channel to return to England, they shot the 5th one down just as they ran out of ammunition. So it was always a close call. All of these people went through experiences like this, and then they came home and you would walk by them on the street and not realize that anything like this had happened to them. They just seemed like normal people amongst all of us. So great stories.
The exhibit was opened on Memorial Day and will be on display until the 4th of July. Troy Homepage Managing Director Eric Berggren met with Brasington to learn more about the community response over the past 4 weeks.
Bill, what kind of response have you had from the community with this new exhibit?
Oh, it's been wonderful. We started on Memorial Day, and a lot of the people that were here for the Memorial Day services on Davis and Green were able to come in and walk through. And I think they were very surprised at the breadth of the names that are here. I think when people walk through, generally during the week when people come in, they're surprised at the names that they see that they weren't looking for, that they recognize. They may come in looking for a family member and discover their bus driver, or an uncle, or their grandfather's brother. And I think that's what we are surprised by, is how much the public seems to enjoy all of what's here. 592 people from the Troy School District area. And some people say, I remember that name, and they haven't thought about it for a long time.
Do you have a personal favorite part of the exhibit?
I have gone through 15 different favorites. To me, the favorites are letters. The Gazette Register was the newspaper for Troy. They sent the newspaper to the people that were in service. And so they would get the newspaper and they would read up about life back at home. So they would write a letter, and they wouldn't write it to mom, they would write it to the newspaper. And they would say, I'm here on an island that I can't tell you about, but I am a sergeant, and the food's good, the weather's this, and everything. And I ran into so-and-so from Wellsboro. And they would tell this story, and it would show up in the paper, and then somebody else would get the newspaper, and they would see their buddy, and they would write a letter to the newspaper, and it's like they're talking to each other through the local newspaper, because they couldn't write to each other because they're moving around so much, but the newspaper would catch up to them. And so you get these little snippets of what life was like and what they were doing, and if it's on ship, airplanes overhead, nurses freeing up concentration camps from the Troy area. It just, there can't be a favorite. There's just so much to look through, but I really enjoy the letters because they really give you a feeling that you're there.
Yeah. And I understand this exhibit will be coming down at 4th of July. Is there plans for what's coming up next, what the next exhibit will be?
Well, yes, this is planned. It's free. It's free admission for the public to come in from 11 o'clock to 4, 6 days a week. We're not open on Monday until the 4th of July. So if you don't make your way down here to see it by the 4th of July, it will be moving on. We'll be doing some smaller exhibits, history of Troy, some of the buildings, and we're aiming for a fairly large Christmas event. And I think if the general public has an interest in getting involved with Christmas for the kids and some things that we can do here and would like to be involved with that, they could reach out to us or talk to us about it when they stop in to see this exhibit.
Is there anywhere online people can learn more about the Troy Historical Society?
Yes, we have a Facebook page, and we also have a website which has some videos on it and some information about it. That's www.historyoftroy.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you here. Look forward to seeing everybody stopping in.
There's only 2 more weeks to see this exhibit, so head over to 59 Fenner Avenue in Troy to learn more about the lives of Troy's greatest generation. To learn more about Troy Historical Society, visit historyoftroy.com or find Troy Historical Society on Facebook. Thanks for watching Troy Homepage.
For all your ands, C and N.